Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. I know it has been a hot day, so I'm excited to be in here where it's a little cool, and that's unusual for me to say that. But we're here tonight with the chief, City Manager Andrews, but we're going to let the chief do most of the talking tonight. He is going to tell you what's going on, and as always, you can have questions when we're done about any subject, but especially if you have police things, it's for you. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, should have sat down first, sorry.
Yeah.
So my name is Norm Haubert. For those of you who don't know me, appreciate everybody being here that's in person and those that are online tonight. So as the mayor said, if there's questions with anything that I covered here tonight, other questions that you have, please feel free to ask. And obviously anything's on the table when we're done with the presentation. So thank you for being here tonight. Topics that we're going to cover tonight here will include overall violent crimes, property crimes. We talk about priority calls, and what that means is when somebody calls into dispatch, how we categorize those. Some people, we get questions from time to time. Some people will be a little bit upset that, sometimes it takes us 10 minutes to get to your house, and other times it takes us an hour to get to your house. So we'll talk about how those calls are prioritized and how we do that. We'll talk about the ever popular speed enforcement and what we are doing. It's our #1 complaint across the city, which in one sense is not a good thing that it's a complaint, but also if that is our #1 complaint in our community, there's probably a lot of other good things that are going on. So we will take that with what it is. We'll talk about street racing, and I will touch on a couple of new laws that are going into effect, more directed towards motorists and driving, that I think are pertinent, but kind of an education campaign this time of year. One of them is specifically about school buses, so it'll be very important there. We'll talk about our law enforcement program. It's a great program that we do during the summer with our school resource officers and some very motivated young kids that are coming up, and it's great to see them out there helping the community. And then last, we'll talk about some of our engagement opportunities. So we will. So violent crime. The good news, violent crime is down. Sorry, went too far. I'm new at this technology thing, Jody, sorry. So appreciate it. So the violent crime, really when we categorize violent crime, we're looking at homicides, we're looking at sexual assaults, we're looking at aggravated assaults, and we're looking at robberies. And what that means, obviously, I think it's fairly common knowledge what a homicide is. A sexual assault can range from what you see in the movies or see on TV, where it's a rape of one individual of another, but it also covers illegal and unwanted groping or touching. So when you see the sexual assault numbers, all of those are lumped together. I'm not saying that any of those are good, but just know that it's one classification for all of those when they report these out like that. Aggravated assaults, obviously an assault is when one person is striking or causing harm to another individual. An aggravated assault is when a deadly weapon, a knife, a gun, or sometimes a fist is used that causes injury. That can also be classified as an assault or an aggravated assault. And then the last one there that you see is robberies. And robbery is the forceful taking, either force, threat, or intimidation, if I take something of value from you. You obviously hear from time to time that there were bank robberies on the news. And the bank robberies is a little bit of a misnomer because we talk about the bank being robbed. Well, the bank is a victim because they lost money. But the tellers, the people inside, are actually the ones that are the victims. So the forced taking of something is from the teller, not necessarily the bank. So those are the classifications of violent crime. So like I said, the good news is violent crime is down. That 5-year trend, that is for Westminster only. That's not for Colorado. That is for our city only in the numbers that we report. So you can see there in 2021, 2022, and since then the 5-year trend, we're trending downward, which is a great thing. That is also the same trend that we are seeing across Colorado. Don't know if that's necessarily what we're seeing across the United States, but right now that's what we're seeing across Colorado. So again, a very, very good thing. One of the things that I would put, I want to put kind of in a bigger picture, talking specifically about bank robberies. In 21 and 2022, when we see that huge spike in where violent crimes are at across our city and across the state, when you talk about bank robberies, we were the number one, and this is not a good thing. It's good to be number one a lot of times, but in 2021 and 22, we were the number one bank robbery capital in the United States per capita. So when you talk about the Denver metro population in today's numbers, we're at 2.9 million people. Chicago is 9.5 million people. LA is 13.2 million people. And you have New York coming in at a staggering 19 million people. Denver was the number one per capita bank robbery capital in the United States. So some of that had to do with everything that was going on nationally. Some of that had to do with things that were going on locally, some laws that changed, in my opinion, some of the things that we didn't help ourselves with. But we had a lot, as everybody knows, we had a lot of unrest in 21 and 2022. The good news is that we are no longer the bank robbery capital, which is a good thing. But like I said, it's absolutely not a badge of honor there in 21 and 22. But we've taken different steps to mitigate some of those things. One example I'll give you is we have a detective that is assigned to the Safe Streets Task Force. Well, the Safe Streets Task Force is an FBI-run task force, and all they do is violent crime and bank robberies. And that's all they investigate. So the good news for us with that detective there is we have a bank robbery. We call him up, and he has between 20 to 25 detectives at that bank within 15 to 20 minutes. We don't have that type of resource just readily available all the time. So when we have officers that are assigned to a task force, it's kind of a force multiplier for us, which can be fantastic. So he was interviewing one of these individuals that was out committing bank robberies back in 2022. And he asked him, and he said, what are you doing? You're on bond. You're literally out on bond for bank robbery, and we just caught you committing another one. And the statement from that individual, now this is one individual, this isn't all of them, but this one individual said, it must not be that big of a deal, you keep letting me back out. So criminals understand the system, they understand the laws that are out there and what is being done and what is not being done. So the good news about bank robbery is it's also a federal crime. Most of the time we charge it at the state or the local level, but that being a federal crime, that detective called the U.S. Assistant Attorney and said, this is what I'm dealing with. And he says, we'd be more than happy to charge him federally. And on the federal charges, they're not able to bond out quite like they are on state charges. So he stayed in jail that night, and he was no longer able to do some of those things. But it's one of those when we obviously see the laws change and we wonder how that's going to impact things, the criminals are doing the same thing and understanding how that plays out in the system and what some of the good things or the bad things are. So the data that what I'm showing here on the slides tonight, if you look in the bottom right corner, it talks about the Colorado crime stats.state.co, all that there. It's too much to talk about, so I made sure it was on each of the slides. That's where you can get all of this data. The Colorado Bureau of Investigations tracks all of the data for every law enforcement agency in the state. They compile it, and then they put it on their website, and then you can search it by city, by county, or by the entire state of Colorado. Then from there, you can look at the 5-year trends. You can dive into some of the specific things. What our goal here is, we're working with information technologies in the city, and with our data analysts, we're hoping to put some more relevant data in our own crime stats on our website. We're not quite there yet, but that's our goal here. Ultimately, is to be more transparent to our community, so you can look at your fingertips and see what's going on in our city. When you look at these crime stats, the ones I'm showing here tonight, it's easier to do a month at a time. So these are accurate as of June 30th. So they will show the first 6 months of the year. So when you see the small bar graph on the very right side, the hope is that it's no more than doubled by the end of the year, because that's just a 6 month, that's a 6 month picture of what's going on there. So thank you, Mayor. So this is a slide graph of larceny, or what we refer to as theft, for the last 5 years. And again, you see a downward trend overall, and that is the same trend that we are seeing across Colorado. We saw a huge spike in things in 21 and 22. Again, like I said, in the violent crime piece, a lot of that had to do with, my opinion, some of the laws changed, but it also had to do with a lot of the unrest that we experienced across the United States. This just shows theft, but this is also the same. It's a very, very similar graph. I didn't want to bore you with multiple graphs, but it's the same graph that you would see for frauds, for forgeries, for other property crimes. The only one that's an anomaly to this is burglary. And we saw a downward trend from 21 to 22, then to 23, and then we saw a huge spike in 2024. We're seeing a downward trend again this year in 2025. Don't know exactly what caused it, but we did see, we were experiencing across the metro area a lot of burglary crews. Some of them were local citizens, others were from foreign countries. We had some burglary and theft rings from Venezuela, from Mexico, from Romania, from Russia. They were all over the world, so not just in one geographic area. But they were hitting the Denver metro area, they were doing burglaries, and they were doing retail thefts to the tune of going into Home Depot, Lowe's, and those type of big box stores across the metro area, and doing hundreds of thousands of thefts, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of theft each and every day, in the millions. So it's something that we took very seriously. We worked with our other agencies. We pooled cases together, pooled information together, and now it doesn't help us at the time, but what we're able to do now with the information that we have is go back, and we've actually arrested several of these people. We've gone in front of grand juries in front of different counties and been able to indict many people on this. We're serving arrest warrants on them, holding them accountable. And we've been able to recover some of the property. I'll talk about that here in a second. Some of the property that we've been able to recover there. Thank you. This slide kind of represents where these thefts, and again, this is specific to theft, but where some of these thefts are occurring. And if you notice, a vast majority of the theft that we have in this city is from retail stores. It's from the commercial areas. So again, you have the mom and pop stores, but you also have Lowe's and Home Depot and that type of stuff. One of the things that we have seen, again, those big retail crews coming in and ripping off those stores. But the one thing that we got to remember too is the stores are not losing money. So what's happening, people are upset sometimes that this is occurring, and they should be, because one of the things that's happening is they are paying their loss prevention people to hopefully prevent this, but they're also passing that cost on to us. And so it's one of those things, if you ever have an opportunity to talk to store managers of our retailers and ask them what their corporate policy is and what they're doing about some of these thefts. Some of the stores, their corporate policy is that we don't want to get into a civil lawsuit by tackling somebody or by stopping somebody. So they will call us and say, hey, somebody's about to steal this. Can you guys get here and prevent it? We'll talk about our responses here in a minute to all the crimes that we respond to. But if we're not able to get there, some of those stores are letting those folks leave. And I understand it in the one sense, when you talk about what could happen to these individuals. If I'm working as loss prevention, I don't know this individual. Are they violent? Those types of things. It may be something where I don't want to get involved, or the store has a corporate policy. We've actually dealt with that a couple of times. A couple of different stores have their corporate policy of the loss prevention will not detain or stop somebody. And we've actually had it where we end up talking to the store owner, contact them and say, hey, Jody really helped me out. We really appreciate him stopping the person. And then we come to find out that Jody's terminated the next day because they violated corporate policy. So there is some of that has to change, in my opinion. But I also understand where they're coming from, in the sense that we may not want to put our employee in that dangerous position. So it's difficult waters to navigate. But we are working with our businesses, with our Chamber of Commerce, with our store owners, and we are working with other retailers and our other agencies across the metro area to make sure that we're sharing information, to make sure that that is passed on. We had a burglary that we were able to solve yesterday. A retail theft that we were able to solve yesterday. The detective put that information out to the other agencies, and our VADA called and said, "We arrested this guy last week. This is who you're looking for." So we're able to clear a lot of that stuff up. But a lot of that is not initially on site, but collecting all that data that we can get, giving that to the detectives that have the time to do that follow-up and working with those other agencies and making sure that we can reach out and we can collaborate with them. So they've been working hard on that. A couple other things on this piece here. I don't have a slide for it, but talking about auto thefts. But I know that you are all aware that we don't have or never had an auto theft problem in Colorado, correct? Okay, so the good news, auto thefts are down drastically from our peak. So across the state so far this year, we've seen 9,500 vehicles taken. It's not good. Nevertheless, across the state in 2022, to give you a point of reference, we had 47,000 vehicles stolen across the state. Absolutely horrendous. So far this year, we've had 314 taken in Westminster. In 2022, it was just under 1,500. So the numbers are down significantly. We still need to continue working on that. We have an officer assigned to the Colorado Metro Auto Theft Task Force. So it's a regional task force that works auto thefts because, as you all know, the cities are getting smaller and smaller, and it's easier to move from city to city. So what they do is they look at the larger metropolitan area as one big city, and then we have detectives assigned from all different agencies, and they work all of those auto thefts together, and understanding that these vehicles are moving across city lines. They're not staying in Westminster, and doing what they can to investigate those crimes across the metro area, charge those individuals appropriately. And we're seeing a lot of good success stories, again, by the collaboration from the other agencies in doing that. So a good thing as it relates to auto theft, the numbers are going down. The one thing that's still kind of scary is half of the auto thefts that we have each year, the keys are in the car. So they are still preventable. Some of that is as we get into the colder weather. It's from the puffing. People want to have their car warmed, want to get the kids out to the car in a warm car. Absolutely get that. But if there's not a mechanism in place by the vehicle that lets you take your keys out and it kills the car when you start to drive off, please stay with your car. Because like I said, an additional half of these, just think about that, 314 so far this year. And if we could cut that number in half by just removing the keys out of that equation, would help obviously everybody out. So, again, one of the things I'll talk about when we talk about collaboration and we talk about recovering property, the victim, it's a horrible thing for the victim to have a burglary or a theft occur, but we're going to continue to work those cases. One of the cases, we just helped Denver out. We didn't know we were helping Denver out at the time, but we have a house in one geographic area in the city that we knew we had been having problems with. We had found a few stolen vehicles. We had had a few people leaving that we contacted, and they were arrested for possession of drugs and stolen property. Ultimately, we got a search warrant for the house, and we had our SWAT team hit the house because of some dangerous history that we knew about. Our SET unit, which is our special enforcement team, they had been working this house, and ultimately they were able to collaborate and serve a search warrant on this house. They were able to arrest 4 people. And when they went in, they thought it was going to be more drugs and guns, which sadly they did find more drugs and guns. But they ended up spending the next 2 days removing property that they had recovered from other victims. There was a victim that had been he was a victim in Denver of a storage facility, and he is a collector of Legos. We had to fill up a U-Haul truck, and the value of the Legos at the end of the day was more than $250,000 in Legos. We had another lady that was a victim in Denver. Again, we found her property there, called the Denver detectives, worked with them. They said, yep, please release her property. She had to make 2 trips in a van for all of the stuff that had been recovered here in our city that we were able to recover, fortunately, for that victim in Denver. So it does happen. Those are not obviously as publicized, and the victims are obviously glad to get their stuff back, but it takes time, sadly. But we just know when you report a crime to us, we take that seriously, and we will continue to investigate that. Thank you. All right. So we get a lot of questions, and I referenced this kind of in the beginning. We get a lot of questions about, we called the police and it only took them 10 minutes to get to my neighbor's house. And then we called the police next week and it took us 2 hours to get there. And a lot of that is what we refer to as problem nature or call types. So when you call us, every call is important to us. It's important to us because it's important to you. So one of my messages here as I get through all the details here is please call us. Please call us because it's important to you. It is absolutely important to us. But every call that we get is prioritized. If something has gone wrong in your world, please call us. But every incoming call into dispatch is prioritized for police and for fire. These calls are prioritized off of a predetermined criteria. Any call at any time can change in priority based off of new information. All the calls are prioritized based off the sanctity of human life first, preventing further injury, in progress, and then we get to property crimes. So if you look at a priority 1 call, which are the most important, priority 5 being the least important. Not saying that they're not important, but in the rank of human life, they're the least important. So priority 1 calls, you have an armed robbery, you have a bomb threat at a local grocery store, you have an active shooter. Your expectation for us is to get there quickly. That's why those are priority 1 calls. The lower the lower the number, the higher the number, the lower the priority is. So in any of these calls can change in their priority level at any given time. So we may start off, somebody may call in a bank robbery, and that may start off at a priority 1. But then with new information as this developed, when finally the cashier says, well, this happened yesterday, then drops it to a 3 or a 4 for us. And it happens. It happens. A domestic disturbance, that's a very important call to us, but that usually starts off at a priority 2. But if we find out that it is still ongoing, that anybody's injured, that there's a weapon involved, those types of things, it raises it to a priority 1 call. So all of those are, again, based off of life and in progress. And then you get to the priority 5 calls. Most of those are what we refer to as cold calls. So they're not in progress. It didn't just happen. The suspects aren't there, but we still need to respond out to make sure that we're providing good service, to make sure that we're tracking what is going on in our city. Sometimes people will say, well, I didn't want to bother you with that. It's not that important. Please bother us. We're here to serve you, and we need to know what's going on in the community. If we know that we're having a bunch of burglaries, a bunch of thefts in an area, we work those areas either visibly with extra patrol units, or we work those surreptitiously with plainclothes officers and doing surveillance and those types of things. So please make sure that you're calling us when you may think this isn't that big a deal, or I just need this for my insurance. It's not that big a deal. Please make sure you call us. So some of the priority 5 calls, your fence got knocked down. You have lost property. You lost your wallet. Your car got broken into a couple of days ago. And again, some of those reports you may think, I just need this for insurance. That information is just as important to us as well. So please make sure that you give us a call. If we have multiple priority calls at once, those are prioritized based off of life. If we have multiple priority calls going on at any given time, the dispatch supervisor will get a hold of the road supervisor. And then at that point in time, we usually call another agency. So if it's something's happening up north, we will call Broomfield. Hey, can you go down here and make sure this is no longer happening? We will send one officer up there to take the report and to do all the cleanup, but we need to make sure that these folks are okay in whatever's happening. So we'll call Broomfield, and we do the same thing for them. It's that quid pro quo back and forth, and we do that with all of our neighboring agencies, Arvada, North Glen, Thornton. They help us out, and we help them out. Fortunately, most of the time we're not all busy at the same point in time, so we can kind of help each other and do that type of stuff. So, but I understand that there are times, though, that it can be frustrating when you call us. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. One of the things that we've done with some of our lower priority calls, and again, if you call and you say, hey, I want to report this, I want an officer to come out, we will absolutely come out to your house and take that report. But that goes low into the queue as a response time. So if another domestic violence call comes in, guess what happens to your call? It gets bumped down again. And so what we've initiated is a texting software that will then text you every 30 minutes and let you know on the low priority calls, your call is still important to us. So if you call from a cell phone and you get some weird text, it might not be spam, it might just be us letting you know your call, we are still coming, but it's going to be for us to get there. Is this any better? There we go. So again, please call us. If you want an officer to respond, we will absolutely respond. The other options that you have is you can also speak with a report specialist. They will take the call. They work at the PD. They're usually the ones behind the glass. If you're ever coming into the police department, they're the ones that will greet you there. They're the ones usually taking those reports. And we also do some online reporting. So that's also an option for you as well. And again, it is as frustrating as it can be when it takes that time, but please give us a call. If you see something, say something. We would rather come out and find out that nothing happened or find out that it was not as big of a deal as we thought than for something to go unreported and then we're not aware of it and then things continue in your neighborhood. So please give us a call and let us know. So the picture on the left there is the picture of our new speed trailer purchased this year, and I'm not even sure the paint was dry before we had it out there working the neighborhoods. Again, speeding and traffic complaints are our number one complaint in the city. We purchased this trailer this year for two reasons. One, for public education, but also for information gathering. The trailer lets the motoring public know what your speed is as you're driving by, but it also captures some vital details for us. It captures the number of vehicles, the speeds that those vehicles are traveling, the date, the time, and then the duration of the deployment. So this data helps us determine if and when targeted enforcement in that area is needed. It may be something where maybe we catch one speeding vehicle every hour, but then there may be another time when we catch 10 speeding vehicles in that hour. Obviously, we can't be everywhere at once, and your neighborhood is important to us just as it is to every person there. So what we then do is we figure out what is the best time to deploy. So we would look at those volume times when there's multiple speeders. And it may be one of those things where maybe we don't see any outrageous speeding, but we see huge volumes during certain times. Well, we'll get the best bang for our buck at that point in time, and we'll go out during those high volume times. Now, we may not catch any speeders, but what do you do when you see an officer on the side of the road? Same thing that I do. I slow down. Okay? So it works. Obviously, visibility is huge, but we have this out there. We also share all of this information with our traffic engineers. They work in public works, and they obviously have a bigger picture of when it comes to road design and different things that they can do for speed mitigation and slowing some things down. Some roads are not designed for higher speeds, But when we have some of these open roads like this in different areas of our community, they will look at it to see if there's anything that we can do the next time they're out there. Obviously, that's expensive, re-engineering roads and that type of thing. But some of that, sometimes it's what we need to do. So all of that information is shared with traffic engineering, to help them help us and to make the motoring public safe. This time of year, as we head back to schools, our focus is on school safety and speeding in the school zones. Our partners in Adams 12, Westminster Public Schools, and Jefferson County Schools, as well as the Adams Academy Charter School, urge all of us as we're traveling to, from, and around schools, please slow down. And that's a reminder for me as well. You get into habits as you go different places, especially if they're routine. But as we get back into the schools, into the school time, please slow down. One of the things through our, not something that the officers have done, so got to preface this, but our municipal court, because they haven't raised fines in quite a while, they have raised fines. So a speeding ticket is more expensive now, and it's very much more expensive in school zones and in construction zones. So don't say that you didn't get warned. They're increasing those, but obviously the idea of that is to thwart the bad behavior and to make sure that people remind themselves, hey, this ticket was expensive. I don't want another one of those, and slow down.
Well, and in the work zones, CDOT has lost a lot of workers. It's imperative. Don't think, oh, why are they doing that? People have been killed because we don't slow down.
No, I appreciate that, Mayor. You're exactly right. It's one of those where it's absolutely horrific. If you ever go to an accident scene like that, where you see people that are out there working, and obviously they have their safety equipment on, they have their crash trucks that they call, that have all the barricades and everything behind them. So the hope is that a vehicle impacts that truck instead of the people working. But every year, CDOT and State Patrol has multiple people hit as they're out there. So please, in the construction zones and in the school zones, please slow down. Yes. Traffic safety and school safety and traffic safety is a huge priority for the police department. And our representation of that, or how I'm letting you know that it's high on our priority list, is those are the 2 units of the police department that are fully staffed and that have been fully staffed. Our school resource officers, I mean, our kids are our most precious and important commodity in our future. So we have never, when we had staffing, when we were low in staffing, we never took the officers out of the schools. We feel that that's absolutely very, very important. And then knowing the traffic and how important that is, we are back up to a full traffic unit now. Across the organization, we have 3 vacancies for sworn officers, which is a good thing. But with that, our traffic unit is full. So we are out there. We know it is a huge priority for our community, and it's a huge priority for us. So we have full staffing there. So we continue to hopefully be behind you at some point in time.
What happens with the license that's I don't know what you call that.
So the vehicle registrations that are not current, when we find those, we, like anything, we pull them over and find out what the story is, what's going on today. There are times when they got the new plates. We don't see this often, but when they got the new plates, they just haven't had time. So they have the current plates, the current registration, and everything's above board. They just haven't put them on. Those are few and far between. So most people, when they get them, they put them on their vehicle. And really, it kind of depends on how long those vehicles have not been registered or what the status is. One of the important things that we check is making sure people have insurance and making sure that they're insured. But the registration piece is mind-numbing when you see some of these licenses that have been expired for years. So it really comes down to the officer and their discretion and what they're doing. But the officers have the opportunity to impound those vehicles. And really, we try and take it on a case-by-case basis instead of you're always going to tow or you're never going to tow, and leave it up to the officer to understand what is going on in that situation. Obviously, our goal is to modify their behavior. Is this a deal where this individual is thumbing their nose at society? their vehicle is going to be impounded. But if you have somebody else that is having a tough time, somebody that maybe we have dealt with before, or the officer's aware of other information based off of what they're seeing in the vehicle, are they living out of the vehicle, those types of things. The officer is trying to take the whole picture as they're making those decisions to do what is best. One, to modify the behavior, but then also to do what is best for that individual. So the officers have that discretion, but we are encouraging them to make sure that they are writing those summonses as appropriately. Street racing continues to be at the top of our list. We have had less street racing events this year, but we still continue to work with the other agencies to make sure that we are on top of the enforcement of this. If you hear street racing, if you see street racing, please call us. You can call 911, you can call the non-emergency number, or you can report it at www.reportstreetracing.com. That's probably the easiest and the best way if you have a phone with you. Now, you can call 911 if it's an emergency. If there's something life-threatening, absolutely call us. But you can also report to street racing. What that does is that goes through the state, but we get that within a couple of minutes. But the state is tracking all of these events across the entire state, and it helps them gather the data. They give it to us almost immediately. There's people watching this website 24 hours, 7 days a week, to make sure that agencies, that where this is occurring, those agencies get it. So there's multiple opportunities to report this. Again, would absolutely encourage people to do this. Sometimes the thought process is, well, if I hear it, other people hear it, they'll call it in. Please call it in. Yes. We continue to work with a state task force, which is multiple agencies across the state. When you work with Colorado State Patrol, Denver, and some of the larger agencies, they have other resources that we don't have. So when we team up with them, and we will go from city to city, and it does include Westminster, and when they do that, Denver will bring their helicopter, CSP will bring their airplane with them. So then we're not in some of those pursuits, we're not engaging in some of those other activities, but we will have an officer down at the off-ramp, we will have an officer down the highway, or we will get that information via video or video camera, and then we will follow up with them later and making sure that they know, hey, we saw you on Friday, but it wasn't worth pursuing you that night. We couldn't catch up to you, whatever the reason was, but we go pay them a visit Monday morning, or we go pay them a visit Saturday afternoon. And sometimes the parents aren't aware of what was going on with their vehicle. So, and then when we talk about impounding the vehicle and towing it, the parents usually kind of change their tune about what was going on last night. So, but again, continue to report that. Not only do we work with the state agencies, but we also work with all the other Adams County agencies. We have a street racing task force that's specifically to Adams County. So again, all the Adams County agencies pair up, and we work with them, and then we go out and hit all the hot spots in the Adams County agencies. Again, we also spend time in Westminster doing that. And then when we're not doing those task forces, we also have other traffic officers, and they then will do street racing enforcement at nights on different evenings. We try and make it random, so it's not always a Friday night. As you know, if you live in the city, it's a Monday night, it's a Wednesday night, it's a Friday night, it's a Saturday night. It can be any night. So if you hear it, please give us a call. One of the things that we have seen great success in is our officers went out and contacted a lot of the larger businesses with large parking lots. So if you think of a Home Depot, if you think of a Walmart, you think of some of these big areas where you can park several hundred cars. And what we've done is we've gone out to those businesses and talked to the property managers, talked to the owners, and got trespass notices. So what that does for us is it allows us to write a trespassing ticket to those folks showing up that are street racing, having a little mini car show in the parking lot there. But it allows us to basically close that parking lot down, saying if you're not here for legitimate business and you're not going to leave, we're going to write you trespassing tickets. That word has gotten out, and so we don't have a lot of car shows or impromptu car shows showing up in our city because they are aware that we're not tolerating this and that our business community is not tolerating this. That's the good news. The bad news is they're still traveling through Westminster. So we see them on the highways, we see them on Federal, we see them on Sheridan. Ultimately, better that they're passing through, but that doesn't always change their behavior as they're passing through our city. So again, if you're seeing it, please give us a call and report it, and we will go follow up with them. In 2024, specifically for street racing and exhibition of speed, the police department made 16 arrests, and we impounded 11 vehicles. That word travels through that community and through social media, just like it does with Wheat Ridge and Aurora, where they have some of these similar laws on the books. And they understand if we're doing this in Westminster, there is the opportunity for the courts to seize our car and not give it back. So we do see some of those. We do see a reduction. What that total reduction is as a percentage, it's obviously difficult for us to tell, but we have seen a decline with some of those laws being passed, as has Aurora and Wheat Ridge. So again, we are out there being proactive about it and doing everything that we can to make sure that our motoring public, as you are out on the weekends, are safe. A couple of new laws. One's not necessarily a new law. It was new earlier this year. And then the school bus stops that went into effect here. But in Colorado, drivers must stop at least 20 feet away from a school bus that has the flashing red lights, regardless of the direction of travel, unless the bus is on the opposite side of a divided highway. So think of 92nd Avenue here, just outside of City Hall. You have the eastbound lanes, and then you have the westbound lanes, but between that is a huge brick median. That's a divided roadway or divided highway. So if the bus is on the eastbound lanes and you're on the westbound lanes, you don't need to stop. You can keep going. Please go the speed limit. Please be cautious. But you don't need to stop for the flashing red lights. Now you move farther down 92nd as you get closer to Lowell, and there's 2 eastbound lanes, there's 2 westbound lanes, and then there's a nice wide lane in the middle for turning for either direction. That area is considered not a divided highway. So there, even though you might be literally 4 lanes over and you're going the opposite direction, the law says that you need to stop for that school bus that's got the flashing lights. That has changed this year. So that didn't used to be the case. It used to be that if you were going the opposite way, you could continue going, but that law has changed. So please make sure that if you see that and it's not a divided highway can also be a depressed median, where you got grass and weeds and that type of stuff where it's depressed. That's also considered a divided roadway. But if they're not divided like that, the expectation, so most residential areas in your community, you're required to stop for the school bus. So please take heed of that. The other one that I'll talk about.
I hate this one. I've watched people get hit.
Yes. The idea behind this, so I'm going to give you 2 words tonight, and I didn't come up with these words, so please, you can be upset at the messenger, but just know that I'm not the one that came up with these words. Lane splitting is illegal. Lane filtering is legal. And let me tell you the difference, because I had to look. Lane splitting is what we most commonly see. We're driving down US 36, you're going 55 miles an hour, and the motorcycle's weaving in and out of traffic or on the shoulder, and they're speeding, kind of weaving in and out and passing cars. That's lane splitting. Lane splitting is still illegal. Lane filtering is now legal in Colorado. Lane filtering is when it's heavy traffic, vehicles are going 15 miles an hour or less or stopped, and it allows the motorcycle to safely, allegedly, but safely, pass the vehicles that are going slow or stopped. The idea behind this is that this law was passed, and it's been passed in a few other states. We're on a 3-year trial period right now to see how this law works for us. The idea behind this law is that it protects the motorcycle from getting rear-ended. So when they stop in traffic, people obviously, the motorcycles stop much quicker than a vehicle does, but the idea behind that is to prevent rear-end accidents. I would argue that what we have seen is that people have taken the lane filtering and they're now also doing lane splitting. If you see it happening, yes, you can absolutely call us, but you know how quickly those motorcycles go in and out. And I'm not excusing it or saying that we're not going to follow up, but it's difficult and it's going to take us some time. If you see it, you see a license plate, give us the license plate. We will follow up with it. But just know that we are probably not going to get into anything where we are chasing these folks through traffic. It's going to be dangerous for us, and it's going to be dangerous for you if we're weaving through traffic as well. But again, if you see it, please give us a call. But that's the difference, and I'm splitting hairs here literally between lane splitting and lane filtering.
You need to go teach a class for them.
Yes. I needed the class for me too. So, but yes, so lane filtering legal. It's on a 3-year trial basis. Colorado State Patrol is collecting all of that data. And then they're going to make the final recommendation back to the legislature saying, hey, we should keep this. This is a great idea. It's the best thing you guys have ever done. Or, hey, we probably need to fix this and not do this in Colorado anymore. So if you see your legislatures, absolutely let them know what you think about lane filtering. Lane filtering right now is legal. Lane splitting is not legal. All right, one of my favorite things that I get to talk about here tonight. We have several opportunities through the community each year to engage with the community. This one we started about 4 years ago. We were not the originators of this. There's a gentleman in Alabama. His name is Rodney Smith Jr. But started a program called Raising Men and Raising Women. And what he did is he took these kids that were probably up to no good and had idle hands. And he got them to start volunteering their time to mow yards for elderly, for veterans, for single parents, and for people that couldn't take care of their yards. And he started this. He's now brought the program to all 50 states. So we joined up with this. We call it our lawn enforcement, and the two lawnmowers that he gave us to start with. They were painted black. They say police. They have little red and white or red and blue lights on the top. So the kids have a great old time with it. But we call it our lawn enforcement program. Raising Men, Raising Women. It's a 501c3 company. So companies donate to him, and what he has since done is he's then passed it on to the kids. So it allows the kids, an opportunity, for connection, for service, and for engagement in their community to help teach them what is important to be good community members. So we identify kids looking for volunteers, but it's their local high school and junior high kids that then go out with our school resource officers into the community, and we find people that need assistance. Again, we've done veterans, elderly, people that are sick. And that have difficulty maintaining their yard through the year. So these kids come in with our SROs, and they mow these yards. And one of the deals that Raising Men, Raising Women does is they do the 100-yard challenge. There's no running involved, as I was misled when I heard the 100-yard challenge. What it is if these kids mow individually 100 yards, this company, this 501c3, will then donate a mower, a blower, and a trimmer to the kid, now obviously through corporate donations, but then that kid has the opportunity to start their own business. So it teaches them about business, it teaches them about connection, about service, about community. We had 3 kids this year hit the 100 yards. And so they got their equipment. And then I have to also give a special shout out to Tyson Camerzell and Nick McIntyre, as well as Devin Bowers from our Parks, Recs, and Libraries. They're the ones that tirelessly keep our equipment running year after year. We had to replace some of our equipment this year. We got a grant through Walmart to replace our lawn equipment this year that we will continue to use. But those 3 individuals at our Parks, Recs, and Libraries keep our equipment running up, maintaining it better than we ever could hope to. But what they also did for these 3 kids, what they also did for these 3 kids is they brought them in and they taught them how to change the mower blades, how to sharpen the mower blades, how to change the filters, how to do all the maintenance stuff so they can go out and they can do their own thing. So it's a great opportunity for us to engage with the kids. It's a great opportunity for the kids and us to engage with other people in our community that might need our help. and where it's not adversarial or where they're not showing up. Some days, as you know, when you call us, we don't always see you on your best day. If you're calling us, things have gone wrong in your world. Maybe something big, it may be something little, but this is an opportunity to connect with our community when there's not emergencies. And so it's been a great program. One of our school resource officers, Charles Gonzalez, brought this to us 4 years ago and said, hey, I'd like to try this, and said, why not? And it has been an absolute blessing for us to be able to go out and do this. Very similar to our Snowbusters program, but obviously on the lawn side during the summer. So great program that we get to do, and just glad to be able to share that with you guys tonight.
We have 10 minutes left.
Perfect. Didn't think it was going to go that long. Okay, last thing, and I'll keep this quick. Just other opportunities for us to engage with the community. We had a couple already in August here. We had National Night Out on August 4th. This last weekend, we had the low-cost vaccine clinic over at Westview. August 29th, we'll have Cuisine with the Cops. That's also paired up with our Parks, Recs, and Libraries folks, where they will have the movie in the park that evening. So we just think of that as we're the pre-movie entertainment. We will have the police cars out there. We have our armored rescue vehicle out there. It's an opportunity for the kids to crawl all over the vehicle and have fun with it, take pictures with the officers. We'll do the same thing, different locations, September 13th at Stanley Lake Campgrounds. October 4th, we'll be at Station 4, Fire Station 4, with their open house with the Faith on Wheels car show. October 18th, we will have a booth at Westie Fest, which will be up at City Park. And then we're working on events there for October 31st for the Trunk or Treat. Usually what we do is allow younger kids, we'll have different cars, we'll hand out candy, but we will also have them, instead of going door to door for the little youngsters, we'll have them trick-or-treating out of our trunks. So that's why we call it the Trunk or Treat. So the piece with the engagement, sometimes people kind of roll their eyes when you hear that. But I think it's important for us to be out there in the community engaging with folks, because in order for you to trust us, you have to know us. And you're not going to get to know us on your worst day. We're not going to get to know you on your worst day. So it's an opportunity for us to get to know you. You get to know us. You get to see that we're not the big, scary, mean people that people always sometimes paint us to be, that we're humans. So it's an opportunity to kind of let the guard down, to get to know you, and you get to know us. That's how we build trust, and you need to trust your police department. So that is all I have tonight for the presentation. Taking questions, anything that was discussed tonight, anything that's not discussed, or we can open it up wherever else.
Hi, I'm Carol Heller. I've lived in Westminster for 59 years, and I live in Old Westminster, and I want to report right now, every Saturday night at 10:30 on, the cars are racing down 80th Avenue.
Down 80th Avenue, I'm going to guess from Sheridan to Lowell. Okay.
Because I can hear them.
Okay. I will let our traffic officers and our graveyard officers know that.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
See, you didn't know it was going to be that easy to report things.
And I have to say that in all those 59...
So that we're videoing this so that people can hear you. Just put it closer to you.
Oh, okay. In all that 59 years, I've only called the fire department one time because my house was burglared. But, so that tells you how safe Westminster is, I think. You guys do a good job. But there are two things that you didn't bring up that are greatly concerned to me, and that's illicit drug use and homelessness. And you didn't address either one of those. And
okay, so drug use. What I would say is we're out there doing drug enforcement like we always have. The laws have changed over the last several years as to what is legal, what is not legal, as well as the amounts for possession. So what somebody used to be arrested for and jailed on, sometimes now is a ticket, and then we can't take them to jail. So we're still out there doing those enforcements. What I would say is if you see it, please give us a call. We still take that very seriously. We know that drug use usually leads to other crimes. And it's also a quality of life issue as far as we're concerned. So please give us a call. But we're still out there doing drug enforcement and making sure that that people aren't doing that. And another piece of that is making sure that they're not driving while they're using drugs or shortly thereafter. As it relates to homeless, it's the way the city has come together. It's a societal problem. It's not necessarily a police problem. We're not going to arrest our way out of homelessness. If any individual, whether they are homeless or not, are committing crimes, we're going to hold them accountable. We will take them to jail. We will take them to the police department. We will issue a summons, whatever is the best course of action. We will absolutely take enforcement action. What we're doing as a city is we're trying to figure out what is the best, and it doesn't happen quick, as you know. What we're trying to do is find out also what works best for that individual. Is that individual somebody that can receive services and get back on their feet and be a productive member and have a home and do some of those things? So we turn them over. I shouldn't say turn them over, but we give them resources through our park rangers and through our homeless navigators for other community services where they can get services, be it counseling, it may be drug counseling, it may be job references, just depending on where they're at in that moment in time. So as a city, we have decided to come together to more of a holistic approach as opposed to just enforcement. So it is a complex societal issue. I don't know where the numbers are right now. I would say overall it's a little bit down, but I would have to ultimately I'd have to ask the homeless navigators that track those numbers specifically. They're out there in the community and making sure they kind of have a good number for Jody and saying, hey, here's where we're at. It's up or down, but I don't know that off the.
A unit within the city of Westminster, the homeless navigators?
They are. They work for the Parks, Recs, and Libraries department. They're housed there, and so one of the reasons that they're housed there is we didn't want it to be necessarily receive a negative connotation. Some people think that when we show up, it's a bad thing, and so the homeless navigators work out of Parks, Recs, and Libraries. They work with other county agencies to provide services for those individuals. So hopefully we can get them off their feet and out of the park or the private property and back in housing.
Other questions?
Hello, my name's Barbara Brenny, and my home backs up to Sims across the street from the dog park. I was really dismayed to hear about the expansion at the airport, largely because the traffic that is generated from when things are being constructed is just horrible on Sims. And talking about safety, some of those huge dump trucks just roar down Sims. Aside from it destroying my quality of life, which between the FedEx plant and the airport expansion has just really devastated my quality of life. So I'm just wondering what you can do to help mitigate some of the traffic. Those huge trucks just speed through there. The FedEx trucks speed through there. And it's almost like they feel entitled. And it is a residential area.
Okay. I don't know that there's much I can do to mitigate traffic in and of itself. But what we do from time to time is we will stop by the FedEx office and have a discussion with their management and just let them know that we're getting complaints and to help us out, to talk to their drivers and to have them slow down. We're more than happy to pass that along to our traffic officers and have them do additional enforcement out there to make sure that people are that they're slowing down. And if we know that there's a specific construction company that we're having issues with, or they're at a certain job site, that type of thing, talk to them. But then we can also talk to whatever city that's in. If it's in the city of Westminster where they're doing construction, have discussions with our planning department and those folks that deal with that construction company to let them know that what they're doing is not acceptable in our city.
Could you put a weight limit on the street, or put some of those narrowing areas where bigger trucks would be discouraged from? So ultimately I would say probably not in that area the way that roadway is designed.
but that is something that is out of my wheelhouse, and I would have to refer that to traffic engineering to better understand the design, the purpose of that roadway, as dumb as that may sound, but the design and the purpose of that roadway, and also to understand the weight limits and some of those restrictions. That'd be a traffic engineering piece that I just have that little sliver of enforcement. I understand the frustration, but I would have to check with traffic engineering on that.
We're hitting the witching hour, but we have one last question. Quick question.
Gary Bland, Westminster. There seems to be one thing you didn't touch on, and it seems to be road rage. It's a highly sought after thing that I see daily. People changing lanes improperly, running red lights, the aggressiveness. I mean, sometimes I'll be driving the speed limits and I look back there and it looks like I'm Mad Max scene or something. So how should I actually engage with that type of person? So all you need is a license plate number, because it's going to be my word against theirs. That's pretty much the situation is going to happen.
So, Gary, thanks for the question. And there's probably a few other things I didn't touch on tonight, but I appreciate you talking about this. What I would say is my first recommendation would be not to engage with the other driver, not knowing who that individual, what they're going through, do they have weapons? What are they dealing with? Don't know that. So absolutely give us a call if you have a license plate. The other thing that we're seeing some successes on is individuals they're purchasing video equipment that sits on their dash, and it's basically a 5-minute loop. You can obviously spend a fortune, but you can get some inexpensive ones that have a 2-minute, 3-minute loop just constantly recording. So when something happens, you then push the button and it freezes and it holds the last 2 minutes, the last 5 minutes, whatever that is. So if you call us and you have that, because to your point, some of it is going to be your word against theirs, if there's 2 people, 3 people, obviously if we have more, but if you call and say, hey, Norm was out of control, here's his license plate, and you get me, what am I going to say? I wasn't doing that. And to your point, it can be very frustrating. But if you have that information, and that is something that we're seeing a huge success in, is that little video camera system. You bring that in, you show us that, and whatever else. I mean, then it's your word and the video, and so we've seen successes with that. So I would encourage something like that. Like I said, if you're seeing something go on, don't hesitate to call us, though, because if there's other people that are calling us, that now helps us. So if we have 2 people, well, now it's 2 against 1. Yes, it's still verbal in that aspect of it, but that's weighed differently in the court process through those pieces. So absolutely encourage you to call, especially if you have information that we can move forward with, like a license plate.
We'll stick around and answer questions, but before we leave, City Manager Andrews answered this for council this week, because we know federal is cutting, then the state has to cut, and counties get different money than cities. So Broomfield gets different money than we as a city. Denver gets more money in different ways, and yet people expect us to do some of those things that we're not a county. And so can you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We track very closely, the best that we can, what we're looking at for federal and state funds coming to the city. And I can tell you, actually, I'm about to present to City Council the draft budget for 2026. It's our best projection of our revenues and expenditures. I present a balanced budget. Cities are required we're the local level of government. We're required by law to present balanced budgets and adopt balanced budgets. So this budget is balanced, and it's based on our best projections of what we know so far for resources coming our way. We're not terribly reliant on federal and state funds. Where people get confused at the local level is, what do counties provide for our community members, and what do local governments provide? And generally, local governments are providing core services. In our case, we're a full service city. We provide policing, fire, we provide our streets, we provide water, we provide sewer, stormwater management, parks, recreation, all of those things that go into a community. The counties will be providing typically social services, and the area where we interplay on that is around homelessness, and some great questions around homelessness. Our team of navigators are highly trained, and what their primary goal is and mission in the field is to provide portals to those other services that are funded and provided by others. And so we watch very carefully how those services are funded, because that's actually what we are providing access to our homeless community too, is those other we don't provide we don't have a homeless shelter, we don't provide access to other cities services around homelessness. We rely on counties, and particularly for Westminster, we have 2 counties in our city that we're part of, Jefferson County and Adams County, and they both have very different approaches to homelessness. For us, we have a similar approach, which is we're in the field. The chief talked about our navigators. We on purpose locate those in our Parks, Recreation, and Libraries department. They're not armed individuals. They're out there to assist. Along with our police officers, we do have co-responders, and those are civilian positions that accompany our police officers and can assist with mental health issues. We often see PTSD-related issues with some of our people that our officers are dealing with, and so we make sure that we have mental health professionals available and on shift to assist the officers. A lot of that feeds into support services not provided by the city, and I think the mayor's talking about what happens when those resources change for us. So we're tracking that very closely. What we know so far, we are resourced, we're funded to help our community access the resources that are currently available, and we'll let council and the community know if that shifts, and we'll come up with a different plan if we need to, because we're committed to that resource access approach for homelessness. I would emphasize, as the chief did, no matter what and how you integrate in our community, criminal activities are never tolerated in Westminster, and those will always be dealt with by our police department.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.